What if everything you're chasing, success, peace, validation, is already within your reach, hidden beneath layers of distraction? Could ancient Stoic wisdom be the compass you've been missing to rebuild not just your mindset, but your entire life? These 12 Stoic truths won't just inspire you, they'll reshape how you think, feel, act, and lead from this moment on. Have you ever felt like you're constantly running but have no idea where you're headed? Every day plays out like a machine on repeat. Wake up, work, push through, get tired, sleep, but deep down something still feels off. There's a quiet sense that life could be different, deeper, clearer, more powerful, but you just don't know where to start. You're not alone, and you're not weak. You just haven't been given the right tools yet. Stoicism, the philosophy that forged steel minds like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, doesn't promise you an easy life. What it gives you is something far more powerful. Control over the only thing you truly own, yourself. It's an inner compass, a mental armor against the chaos of life. This video isn't here to entertain you. It's something to return to each night, a kind of ritual, a moment to pause, look inward, and remember you're not a victim of your circumstances. You're the one choosing how to face them. Number 1, no one cares that much. You walk into a cafe and accidentally knock over a glass of water. It's an awkward moment. You blush, flustered, convinced that the entire place is watching and silently judging you. But 5 minutes later, everyone is back to their screens, unfinished conversations, or private worries. Their lives are too busy to hold space for your minor mishap. The truth is, no one is thinking about you as much as you think they are. They're thinking about themselves, their outfit, their deadlines, the text their partner just ignored. Our minds tend to exaggerate how much others notice us. We're the main character in our own story. So we assume others are also paying close attention to every word we say, every move we make. But they're not. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You shouldn't give circumstances the power to rouse anger, for they don't care at all." Just as life doesn't care whether you're angry, people don't spend their day analyzing your small mistakes. They're busy living on their own. Have you ever delayed a decision just because you were afraid of what others might think? A post you wanted to share? An idea you hesitated to voice in a meeting, or even an outfit you liked but felt was a bit too much? How many times have you trapped yourself in an invisible cage, the imagined stares, the unspoken judgments? Try something simple. The next time you feel anxious about what people are thinking, pause, take a breath, and ask, are they really thinking about me? Or am I just making up that story? Another practical step. Spend 1 minute each night writing down 3 things you didn't do because you were worried about others' opinions. After a week, you might realize how often you've been controlled by fears that never truly existed. Here's the irony. The more you think people are watching, the less authentic you become. Philosopher Søren Kierkegaard wrote, "Once you label me, you negate me." When we fear judgment, we begin labeling ourselves based on what we think others expect. And each label fades a piece of who we really are. We stop living and start performing. Stoic philosophy urges the opposite, to peel back those layers, to return to who we are, without needing proof, without needing permission. When you truly believe no one is thinking about you as much as you think, you speak more freely, act more honestly. Your mind feels lighter, like you've let go of an invisible weight. And in that quiet, you begin to see something else clearly. The emotions you've been feeling, worry, shame, insecurity, are they real, or just the lingering echoes of an illusion? Number 2, feelings aren't facts. Stoicism doesn't deny emotions. It teaches us something even clearer. Emotions aren't truth, they're reactions. Echoes of the mind responding to the outside world. You get angry because someone says something offensive. But if the exact same words came from a child, you might laugh. Emotions aren't objective. They're colored by memory, habit, and a lack of awareness. So why do we let them shape our attitudes, choices, even our future? Epictetus once wrote, "What disturbs people is not things, but their judgments about things." Anger, anxiety, jealousy, none of these are actual events. They're what happen when we assign meaning to those events. An unanswered email doesn't mean someone hates you. A cold glance doesn't mean betrayal. But we trust our feelings as if they're a compass pointing north. Here's the strange part. Well, the stronger the emotion, the more convinced we are it must be true. But if you've ever been overwhelmed with stress only to later realize you overreacted, you know, emotions often distort reality. So why not pause? Instead of reacting instantly, give yourself a moment, just a few seconds. Take a breath and ask, what am I feeling? Am I sure this reflects the truth? A small question, but it can change everything that follows. This isn't something that requires a quiet room or a free afternoon. You can practice it while waiting for the elevator, when someone annoys you, or when you feel left out. Every emotional spike is an invitation to train. Picture your mind as a room. Emotions are guests. You can't stop them from entering, but you don't have to let them control the TV, raid the fridge, or wreck the furniture. Modern science agrees. In cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, psychologists call this fusion with emotions one of the most dangerous thinking traps. And the philosopher Spinoza once said, "When a man is prey to his emotions, he is not his own master." From ancient wisdom to modern science, the message is the same. Emotions are data, not commands. You don't have to be emotionless. Just remember, emotions are like weather, and you're the one steering the ship. Storms will come, but your hands stay on the wheel. That's Stoicism. That's the power of knowing the difference between how you feel and what is real. If this video helped you see yourself more clearly, let it be something you return to each night. A reminder that you are not the wave, you are the ocean. Subscribe if you need more reminders like this. Not to follow a channel, but to follow yourself more consciously, one day at a time. Number 3. Let the ego die. Epictetus once said, "He who thinks he has learned everything has learned nothing." It's a sharp reminder for anyone who confuses confidence with ego. The moment you think you're good enough is the moment you shut the door on every chance to get better. Why do so many people stop reading, skip workouts, or reject feedback? It's not always laziness, often it's ego whispering, "You're fine as you are." Let me tell you a story, because maybe, just maybe, you're living a version of it. David was a sharp programmer who believed he was the smartest on his team. He fixed bugs fast. He challenged people hard in meetings. Then one year, the company switched to a new tech stack. Everyone went back to learning except David. "I already know this," he said. 6 months later, he was the only one who couldn't keep up. Eventually reassigned to testing. Over lunch, a teammate told him, "What brought you down wasn't lack of skill. It was thinking you had nothing left to learn." If that story hits a little too close, good. That's the feeling of truth knocking. So ask yourself, have you ever resisted change just to protect your status? Stayed silent even when you were wrong, because pride got in the way? Try this tonight. Before bed, write down one thing you don't know and someone you could learn it from. Don't pick someone impressive. Pick someone you once dismissed. That one act can break the ego's grip, the illusion that it's shielding you when really it's holding you back. Scripture says, "God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble." You don't need to be perfect, but if you're too proud to learn, you will fall behind even when it looks like you're ahead. Ego isn't you. It's just the echo of your fear of being unseen. Real growth begins when you let yourself be critiqued, be challenged, be the beginner again with empty hands and an open mind. And once you understand that, you'll stop trying to please everyone. You'll realize you don't need many people, just one version of you honest enough to face yourself. But that's a story for another day. Number 4, you don't need many people. There's a kind of exhaustion that has no name. The tiredness of maintaining relationships we no longer believe in, smiling at the right time, texting back promptly, matching the tone just right, all just to hold on to people who maybe were never really there. But we keep going because we're afraid of something that sounds irrational, having fewer people. They say, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. But they forget one thing. If you go with the wrong people, you don't get anywhere at all. Are you holding on to certain relationships just because you're afraid of being seen as alone? Here's something interesting. The more condensed something is, the more valuable it becomes. Condensed gold, condensed time, and friendship too. Lucius knew that. He worked at a major ad agency, always showing up at packed meetings and buzzing networking events. His calendar was full for weeks. But when he suddenly lost his job, not one of those people reached out. A week later, he held a birthday dinner. Only one person showed up. His younger brother, the one he often skipped seeing because he was busy. In that moment, Lucius realized crowds don't offer support. Sincerity doesn't need a crowd. Have you ever felt that way? The more people around you, the more you feel the need to be a palatable version of yourself. But Stoicism doesn't teach you to please everyone. It teaches you to choose wisely. As Seneca once said, associate with people who are likely to improve you. Relationships shouldn't be a weight you carry. They should be a space where you grow. So ask yourself, are you growing with someone or slowly wearing down because of them? Now do something hard but necessary. Pause the effort to keep up with the people who drain you. You don't have to cut them off, just go quiet. Then watch who fades away and who stays. The answer will be clearer than you expect. Fulfillment doesn't come from numbers. It comes from depth. One honest conversation can be worth more than 100 polite texts. One person who truly cares can outweigh an entire noisy digital world. If you've ever felt surrounded yet empty, leave a line below. Not to be heard, but so someone else knows they're not alone. Number 5. Solitude builds strength. Some nights, the room feels strangely larger. Not because the space itself has changed, but because the emptiness inside makes everything around echo your own size. In those moments, loneliness stops being a concept. It takes shape like a shadow sitting quietly by your bed. But here's the thing. Loneliness isn't here to hurt you. It's here to teach you what the crowd never could. We grow up believing that happiness is tied to the presence of others. A constant stream of conversation, back-to-back messages, laughter echoing in a cafe, as if silence signals something's wrong. But that's just the game of an untrained mind. A Stoic mind doesn't run from loneliness. It faces it like a soldier cleaning his sword after battle. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." So why do we let the noise outside drown out the quiet within? Try this. Spend 10 minutes each night with no music, no phone, no bright lights, just you and your breath. It'll feel uncomfortable at first, but soon you'll realize you don't need anyone else to feel whole. When embraced the right way, loneliness becomes a mental training ground. It gives you the chance to observe your thoughts without interruption. Do you know which thoughts you replay every day? Can you tell which voices in your head are truly yours and which ones were planted by others? Ironically, many people feel most lost in a crowd, not because they lack company, but because they've been away from themselves for too long. That's why Buddhist philosophy, seemingly so different, overlaps with Stoicism. Stillness opens the door to the inner world. You don't need to escape to a far-off place. Just sit still and face yourself. If you really want to master your mind, live a small part of each day like a hermit. No need to be extreme, just silence, stillness, no scrolling. No need for anyone to validate that you're okay. Stillness isn't boredom. It's the space where depth is born, and from that space, you'll stop fearing loneliness because you'll know in solitude you can finally hear the voice within. The one that points you in the right direction. Have you ever sat alone and felt truly at peace? Or do you always reach for something to fill the silence? That question is worth asking every night, because if you can't be alone with yourself, you're giving away most of your mental power to others. Loneliness isn't the enemy. It's a quiet teacher, stern but fair. And if you're brave enough to sit with it, you'll grow stronger than anyone who spent their whole life surrounded by noise. Number 6, be kind to yourself. There are nights when you lie in the dark, not to rest but to interrogate yourself. Why did I do that? If only I had chosen differently. The questions replay like a needle scratching the same spot. You think you're holding yourself accountable, but in truth you're trapping yourself in the past and you don't even realize it. A Stoic doesn't avoid pain. They face it head on, but they don't let it control their actions. As Marcus Aurelius reminded us, don't let your reflections on the whole sweep of life crush you. Don't fill your mind with all the bad things that might still happen. Stay focused on the present situation and ask yourself why it's so unbearable and can't be survived. Regret only matters if it leads to action. If it just drags you back into old memories and leaves you frozen in guilt, it's no longer self-awareness, it's self-destruction. Made a mistake. Good. The only people who never mess up are the ones who never truly lived. But now you have a choice. Will you keep carrying that mistake like a stone in your shoe? Or will you set it down and move on? Forgiving yourself isn't about feeling better. It's about freeing the energy you're wasting on something that can't be undone. It's like dropping a bottle of water on the floor. The only reasonable response is to clean it up, not to stand there all day saying, I should have held it tighter. So ask yourself, how much time did I waste today blaming myself instead of doing something about it? Here's something worth thinking about. Are you refusing to forgive yourself because you think you have to carry this burden forever, but you don't have to pay for the rest of your life for a mistake made by a version of you that no longer exists? Unless, of course, you keep acting like that version is still in charge. And if you really want to move forward, try something simple. Write down the one thing you're most ashamed of lately. Then ask yourself, what am I doing to make sure it doesn't happen again? The more specific your answer, the lighter your next step will feel. Wisdom isn't about avoiding mistakes. It's about knowing when to pause, face yourself, and say, that's enough. I've learned what I needed to learn. Forgiveness isn't a surrender. It's a sacred release that unties your hands so you can finally move forward, lighter, stronger, and wiser. If you've made it this far, you're not just listening, you're confronting. And that's something most people never dare to do. Like this video as a way of saying, I'm not going back there again. Stick with us until the end. Because every part that follows isn't just advice. It's a piece of the bigger picture. A clear-headed, grounded, and strong life. Number 7. High expectations hurt. We often expect the world to please us, then feel disappointed when it doesn't play along. But Stoics once reminded us, when you are delighted with anything, be delighted as with something not your own. When a loved one dies, say, I have given him back. Don't cling to what you can't control. Expectations are like anchors dropped into the ocean. But the world is a boat that never stays still. Someone once asked me, so should I stop expecting anything at all? No. Expect, but turn that expectation inward. Don't expect to reap what you haven't sown. Don't long to be loved the way you want if you haven't yet learned to love others the way they need. Let me tell you about a man named Daniel. You should hear this story because you might see a piece of yourself in it, or at least a part of you that once thought like he did. Daniel was a banker, hardworking, dependable, always hoping his efforts would be recognized. He stayed late, picked up slack from his teammates, and quietly wished for a promotion. But when the opportunity came, it went to someone else. Someone newer with less experience. Daniel was crushed. He lost his drive. He started to believe life was unfair. One night sitting alone, he thought to himself, I've been living by other people's expectations, not by my own standards. That moment changed him. He began to shift, setting his own standards, doing things because they mattered, not because they might earn him something. Daniel's story isn't meant to move you. It's meant to reveal something. Expectations often pull us away from the present. If your mind is constantly stuck on what should happen, you'll miss what is happening, and the simplest practice to break free from that. Every time you feel disappointment rising, pause and ask yourself, what was I expecting just now? Was it something I could control? If not, let it go. It's like grasping a hot stone. The tighter you hold on, the more it burns. Scripture reminds us, do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. Peace doesn't come from knowing what's ahead, but from not letting it down today. Each night before you sleep, reflect on one expectation you've been carrying, then write down one action you can take instead. Of course, we're human, we will keep expecting. But the real question is, will you let those expectations run your life? And maybe learning to let go of expectations also means learning to let go of other things, because everything eventually slips away. That's the next lesson. Number 8, nothing lasts forever. One day, the shirt you love will fray and tear. Your closest friend may change or move away. The hair you brush every morning will turn gray. Nothing stays the same, and because of that, everything becomes precious. We live as if things will last forever, then feel betrayed when they don't. But have you ever asked yourself, if everything eventually slips away, why do we cling so tightly? Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." You can't hold on to the wind, just as you can't keep people by your side forever. Instead of grieving the truth, the Stoic learns to love life because it is fragile. Picture yourself looking at an old family photo. The faces, the expressions, the gestures, they're frozen in a moment that will never return. What makes that photo beautiful isn't its perfection, but the fact that it's unrepeatable. Everything we love will eventually disappear. That's not a tragedy. It's a reminder to stay awake to what we have while we have it. Living this way doesn't require grand gestures. It can be as simple as this. Each morning before checking your phone, look around the person you live with, the sunlight at the window, the warmth of your coffee, and say quietly to yourself, this moment may never come again. Just that one sentence can slow the world down. When you're talking to someone, try imagining it's the last time you'll hear their voice. Not to feel sad, but to really listen. It's the nearness of goodbye that makes love deeper. Some people think understanding impermanence makes life bleak, but actually, it gives you strength, because once you truly grasp that everything can be lost, you stop taking anything for granted. You start living with gratitude instead of complaints. You act instead of waiting. You forgive knowing no one stays long enough to hate forever. Impermanence doesn't darken life, it makes it shine. Have you ever thanked someone you love? Not for something big they did, but simply because they're still here. If not, do it today. Pause. See the familiar with fresh eyes. Let the future's inevitable losses remind you to live more fully now. So, if you truly understand that nothing lasts forever, comment, "Nothing lasts," to mark the moment you began living, more consciously starting today. Number 9. Time can't be bought. You can lose money and earn it back, lose a job and find another, lose love and fall in love again. But once time passes, it never returns. The most valuable thing you're losing every day makes no sound. It's time. People fear losing money, yet they spend time as if they have an endless supply. Have you noticed how often we put off what truly matters just to do things that don't? Mindless scrolling, endless small talk, waiting for the right time to finally start living. The problem is, that moment never comes. Why are we so protective of our possessions, yet so generous with the one thing we can never buy back? Maybe you should hear this story, not because it's dramatic, but because it's quietly happening all around you. Jacob is a 54-year-old baker in a coastal town. He wakes at 4 a.m. and has been baking for 30 years, almost without pause. He once promised his wife they'd go to Italy, her dream, once they saved enough to open a bakery of their own. They finally did, but by then she fell ill. The trip never happened. The day she died, Jacob didn't cry. He baked an almond tart, her favorite, and placed it beside their wedding photo. He sat there watching it cool, never taking a bite. No one really understood why, but he did. Because what he thought was waiting for the right time turned out to be time that never came. And that tart was the apology he never got to say out loud. Jacob didn't quit his job. But from then on, every afternoon he took a 30-minute walk along the beach. No phone, no watch. He didn't change his whole life. He just stopped trading time for things that didn't truly matter. So what are you trading your time for? Is it worth it? If you're unsure, that's your signal to pause. Here's something simple that works. Every morning, write down just one thing that if you did it today, you wouldn't regret anything if tomorrow never came. Just one. Do that. Then let the rest of your day be lighter. And eventually you'll realize the most precious things don't cost money, but they do cost your time. And that's the one thing you can never afford to waste. Number 10. Money is just a tool. Money is a tool. And yet people lose sleep over it as if it defines their worth. But in truth, it's just a knife so sharp that if you don't know how to hold it, you'll end up cutting yourself. The irony? We treat that knife like it's jewelry. Ever notice how we trade 8 hours a day for money only to spend that money trying to buy back our time through vacations, gadgets, or a few stolen minutes of peace? It's like pouring water into a bucket with a hole in the bottom, then using the same money to buy duct tape to patch it. Maybe the real shift isn't about making more money, but about wanting less. Epictetus once said something simple that most people overlook. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. True wealth isn't about accumulation, it's about restraint. But society doesn't teach us that. It teaches us to compare, to hustle for things we don't need, to impress people we don't even care about. You're running, but there's no finish line. Now imagine this. If you woke up tomorrow and money was no longer a concern, what would you do differently? If your answer isn't nothing, maybe you're headed in the wrong direction. Money should be the wheels that take you where you want to go, not the one driving the car. So here's a small practice to live with more intention. Before bed, don't open your banking app, check crypto prices, or scroll through economic headlines. Instead, ask yourself, what did I do today that didn't cost a cent, but made me feel alive? Write down just one thing. Just one. That's how you take the wheel back. You don't need to reject money, but you do need to treat it like a sharp blade. It can help you build something or hurt you if you start swinging it around mindlessly. If you really want to change your relationship with money, don't start with budgets or investments. Start with something small, something you do daily. Because it's the small daily habits that shape your fate. And that right there is the part you can't afford to skip tomorrow night. Number 11. Habits shape destiny. You don't need a dramatic turning point to change your life. What you really need is to brush your teeth on time. Sounds trivial, but it's the small everyday actions. Reading a page, getting up when the alarm rings, choosing to walk instead of scrolling for 10 more minutes that quietly shape your future. People often wait for a breakthrough moment, a crisis, a mentor, a sudden surge of inspiration. But real life doesn't work like the movies. Destiny doesn't crash in with thunder. It whispers through the alarm clock you snooze for the 7th day in a row. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You must build up your life action by action and be content if each one achieves its goal as far as possible, and no one can keep you from this." In other words, you don't need permission to live right. You don't need the perfect moment to start. Small actions done consistently carve your character like water-shaping stone. Have you noticed that most successful people don't have one big life-changing moment? What they do have is rock-solid habits. On the flip side, people who stay stuck often cling to a fantasy that one special day will reset their life. But if you can't wash the dishes on time, you won't be leading a team anytime soon. Habits are like thread, thin, fragile, almost invisible. But sew with them long enough and they become your armor. Try this. Write down one thing you know you need to do, not something big, just something right. Then commit to doing it every day for 7 days. No announcements, no social media, just you and the act. That quiet moment, that's where your willpower gets forged. Remember, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. So ask yourself, what are you repeating every day? Where is it taking you? Are you living with intention or just reacting? Reaching for your phone before you even open your eyes? Checking social media before checking in with yourself? And if you're about to scroll to the next video, pause for 10 seconds. Ask yourself, if I did this one small thing every day, what would my life look like in a year? One step won't get you to your goal, but without it, you'll never move at all. We want to hear from you. Do you believe in the power of small habits, or are you still waiting for the right day to finally start living right? Drop a thought below. Let's make this last lesson a real conversation. Number 12. Respect the body. Every night before bed, we tidy up the room, lock the door, check our phones, and plug in the charger. But how often do we stop to ask, how did I treat my body today? In a world where our phones are charged more carefully than the people using them, taking care of our bodies has become an afterthought. We skip meals to meet deadlines, stay up late to unwind from an exhausting day, and sip our third cup of coffee just to stay functional. But the body is not a machine. It's a temple, and your mind is what lives inside it. When the body is drained, the mind becomes unbalanced. Sleep too little, and you're easily irritated, unable to focus. Eat poorly, and your thinking turns foggy and slow. We often assume we're facing a mental crisis when the real issue lies on our plate, under our blanket, or in the legs we haven't moved in days. Imagine a priest stepping into a temple that's dusty, dark, and moldy. Could he pray in peace? Yet, somehow we expect our minds to be sharp and strong while our bodies are treated like temporary storage. The irony is, the more we live in our heads, the more we forget the home we live in. Your body isn't something to endure so the mind can soar. It's the ground where everything else grows. Have you noticed that when your body feels good, you're more patient, more clear-headed, more forgiving, and how just one bad night's sleep or a small headache can send your thoughts spiraling? That's why taking a walk, staying hydrated, and sleeping on time aren't just health tips. They're acts of philosophy. Each time you choose a nourishing meal over fast food, you're practicing willpower. Each time you close your screen early and go to bed, you're building mental discipline. So before you scroll for another 10 minutes, ask yourself, has your temple, your body, been cared for today? Has it been given rest, or is it still struggling under your neglect? If you want a strong, resilient mind, start with the place it lives in tonight. Let your body be heard, go to sleep, drink some water, breathe deeply. Because if you can't honor the temple, how can you expect to find peace within it? We've just explored 12 core principles of Stoic philosophy, not to memorize, but to live by. Each idea is a mirror reflecting how we see the world and ourselves. That other people's attention doesn't define you. That money is a tool, not a destination. That loneliness isn't weakness. It's where inner strength begins. That time once gone can't be bought back. And that forgiveness, self-awareness, discipline, letting go of expectations, and accepting loss are all quiet but powerful steps toward inner mastery. Stoicism isn't flashy. It doesn't need applause. It's steady, like a small flame in the dark, just enough to light the path for those who truly want to keep walking. Revisit these reminders each night, not because you're weak, but because you're training yourself to be steady. If this video brought you a bit more clarity, a moment of calm, or simply made you feel a little less lost, don't forget to hit like if you haven't already. Share it with someone close to you, someone who might need a moment of grounding. And subscribe to the channel. There's more Stoic wisdom on the way, waiting for you each night like a quiet companion reminding you, you are stronger than you think.